If you thought Ferrari showed up to the 2026 season with a slow, bulky tank, you just fell for the biggest trap in Formula One history. When the SF26 first rolled out onto the hot tarmac in Bahrain for pre-season testing, the entire paddock was in shock, but for all the wrong reasons. The car looked massive. It had these oversized, clunky sidepods and cooling vents that made it look almost primitive compared to the sleek, razor-thin designs coming out of the Mercedes and Red Bull garages. Every technical expert and armchair critic on the internet immediately jumped to the same conclusion. Ferrari had failed. The rumour mill started spinning instantly, with people claiming that the Italian team was struggling to keep their new power unit cool and had been forced to play it safe just to keep the car from exploding. It looked like another long, embarrassing year was ahead for the Tifosi. But that is exactly what Ferrari wanted everyone to think. What we were actually looking at wasn't a slow car. It was a carefully staged masterpiece of deception. Those bulky side pods and wide body panels were never intended to see a single lap of a real race. They were what engineers call thermal dummy rigs, essentially a hollow shell designed to act as a giant data collection tool. While every other team was showing their hand and trying to find speed, Ferrari was running a laboratory on wheels. They used that extra space inside the fake bodywork to map out every single degree of heat moving through the engine, gathering the top-secret data they needed to finalize a much more aggressive design back at the factory. All by the time the rivals realized they were being fed fake data, Ferrari was already packing their bags for Melbourne with a secret upgrade that makes the Bahrain car look like a museum piece. Ferrari didn't just build a car for testing. They played the entire paddock like a violin, hiding the most lethal weapon on the 2026 grid behind a wall of deliberate, bulky decoys. To understand why this deception was so brilliant, you have to look deep inside the heart of the car at the new 067 power unit. While every other team on the grid is using aluminum for their engine cylinder heads, Ferrari has made a radical, lone wolf decision to switch to a specialized steel alloy. It sounds like a small detail, but in the world of high-performance engineering, it changes everything. You see, steel is much tougher than aluminum, yet it can handle incredible combustion pressures and scorching temperatures that would literally melt a standard engine. Because steel is such a great insulator, it traps the heat inside the combustion chamber where it can be turned into raw power, instead of letting that heat bleed out into the rest of the car. This creates a massive chain reaction. Because the engine stays self-contained, there is way less heat escaping into the engine bay. Less heat means you don't need giant, heavy radiators to cool it down. And because the radiators are smaller, Ferrari can finally throw away those bulky test panels and debut their real Melbourne upgrade. A shrink-wrapped body design that is 20% tighter and more aerodynamic than anything we saw in Bahrain. Now, you might be wondering why nobody else thought of this. Usually, engineers avoid steel because it's much heavier than aluminum, and in Formula One, weight is the enemy. But Ferrari's genius was in reading the fine print of the new 2026 rulebook. The FIA actually increased the minimum weight of the power unit from 120 kilograms to 150 kilograms this year. That extra 30 kilogram cushion gave Ferrari the perfect weight loophole to use the heavier steel parts without any real penalty. They essentially traded that extra weight for a massive aerodynamic advantage that their rivals completely missed. While the rest of the grid was trying to shave grams off their aluminum engines, Ferrari realized they could use the extra weight to build a thermal monster that allows the outside of the car to be incredibly thin and fast. Well, it's a total shift in how a racing car is built. The engine isn't just a motor anymore, it's a tool that dictates the entire shape of the car, giving Ferrari a packaging edge that is going to be almost impossible for anyone else to copy this season. But Ferrari knew that a secret this big couldn't stay hidden just by using bulky side pods, so they decided to give the media and their rivals a shiny new toy to obsess over instead. This is where the real smokescreen comes in. During the final days of testing, they rolled out two wild innovations at the back of the car, a specialized exhaust wing and a radical, rotating rear wing that literally flips upside down on the straights. It looked so bizarre that the internet immediately nicknamed it the Macarena wing. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. Every photographer in the pit lane was pointing their high-powered lenses at the back of the car, and every rival engineer was calling the FIA to check if those moving parts were even legal. While the entire world was arguing about wing angles and loopholes in the aero rules, they were completely ignoring the internal metallurgy that actually makes the car a winner. These were loud innovations, flashy visual distractions designed to keep the competition's eyes off the engine bay and the real secret of the steel cylinder heads. The most devastating part of this plan is that even if the other teams realise they've been tricked, they are already at an engineering dead end. While teams like Mercedes, Red Bull and Ford are scrambling to understand how Ferrari's rear wing works, yet they are trapped by the fundamental choices they made months ago. You can't just decide to switch your engine from aluminum to steel in the middle of a race weekend. It would require a total redesign of the entire power unit, new manufacturing plants, and months of safety testing that nobody has time for during a busy season. Because Ferrari committed to this unique steel architecture so early, they've built a foundational advantage that is essentially uncopyable until at least 2027. Their rivals are now stuck with engines that run hotter and require bigger cooling vents, while Ferrari prepares to cruise through the Melbourne heat with their slim, shrink-wrapped upgrade. By the time the rest of the grid figures out that the rotating wing was just a magician's trick, the trophy might already be on its way back to Italy. This entire masterstroke didn't happen by accident. It was born out of the absolute heartbreak of the 2025 season. To understand why Ferrari is being so aggressive now, you have to remember what they went through last year. A year of silence, where they didn't win a single race and looked completely lost. It was so bad that by April of 2025, the team did something incredibly painful. They completely stopped developing that year's car. They essentially surrendered the entire season just to buy themselves an 8-month head start on this 2026 project. During that time, a massive cultural shift happened behind the scenes. Their new technical director, Leclerc, who came over from the powerhouse Mercedes team, teamed up with Vasseur to change the way Ferrari thinks. Instead of just trying to make a fast engine or a pretty wing, they focused on systems integration. The idea that every single bolt in the engine must work in perfect harmony with the shape of the bodywork. This new, disciplined culture is what allowed Ferrari to succeed where everyone else failed. The secret weapon in this story is a man named Guido Di Paola, Ferrari's combustion genius. He refused to give up on the steel engine idea even when it seemed impossible. He teamed up with an elite Austrian engineering firm called AVL to solve the one big problem with steel: durability. Steel is tough, but it can be brittle under the extreme stress of a race, and many thought it would just crack and fail. Interestingly, the engineers who originally started this project at Ferrari actually left to join Audi, but they couldn't figure out the final puzzle piece in time. Di Paola and his team did. They cracked the code on how to make steel survive a full race distance, giving Ferrari a massive technological leapfrog over the competition. This isn't just a lucky upgrade. It's a redemption story for a team that spent a year in the shadows, quietly sharpening their blade while everyone else thought they were down for the count. All of this secret development and clever engineering is about to hit reality at the Australian Grand Prix, and Albert Park is the perfect place for Ferrari to spring their trap. This track is a brutal test of speed, with drivers keeping their feet flat on the gas for over 70% of every lap. This is where that steel engine finally gets to show off, because while other engines might start to lose power as they get too hot, Ferrari's thermal efficiency keeps them running at peak performance even under extreme pressure. Then there is Melbourne's famously unpredictable weather, where it can feel like 4 seasons in a single day. If the sun suddenly blazes down and the track temperature skyrockets, most teams will be panicking about their engines overheating. But Ferrari won't be. Their steel-based system gives them a massive safety margin, meaning they can keep their narrow, fast bodywork while everyone else is forced to cut holes in their cars just to stay cool. But the real mic drop moment might happen before the first corner even arrives. During those quiet testing sessions in Bahrain, a few sharp-eyed observers noticed something scary about the SF26 during practice starts. Because the steel cylinder heads allow for much higher internal pressure, the car's smaller turbo can spin up almost instantly. This gives the drivers a launch advantage that is second to none. While the Mercedes and Red Bull drivers are waiting for their power to kick in, the Ferrari is expected to launch off the grid like a rocket ship. In a race like Melbourne, where the run down to the first turn is incredibly important, this spool-up speed could see Ferrari taking the lead before the rest of the pack even finds their footing. Everything about the Melbourne circuit plays directly into the hands of the secret car Ferrari has been hiding, turning a challenging racetrack into the ultimate stage for their comeback. When you step back and look at the big picture, it becomes clear that Ferrari didn't just build a new racing car, they built a giant high-speed trap for the rest of the grid. This secret upgrade heading to Melbourne isn't just some tiny winglet or a clever piece of software. It is a fundamental change in how a Formula One car is packaged from the inside out. By rethinking the very metal the engine is made of, they've unlocked a level of aerodynamic freedom that their rivals didn't even think was possible under the current rules. While everyone else spent the winter trying to improve their old ideas, Ferrari quietly changed the game entirely. Yet they used testing to feed the world a distraction, and they used the last year of failure to fuel a breakthrough that is now baked into the very DNA of the car. The stage is now set for a moment of truth that could shift the power balance of the entire sport for years to come. The paddock is still talking about wings and gimmicks, but the real story is hidden beneath that red bodywork, waiting to be unleashed on the streets of Albert Park. If the SF26 rolls out of the garage on Friday morning sporting those aggressive, razor-thin sidepods we've been waiting for, it will be a sign that the trap has finally snapped shut. If Ferrari has truly bridged the gap between raw engine heat and perfect aerodynamics, the 2026 championship might be over before the first set of lights even goes out.